Welcome, soul of fire, the one who carries in your heart the power of every beginning. If you're hearing these words right now, it's not by accident. The universe is whispering to you, maybe about the path you're about to walk, or about the flame within you that hasn't been called by name for a long time. There are moments in life when we think we've lost our way, but really, it's only the universe pausing for a moment to help us remember the light we were born with. Tonight, I want to invite you to come with me, back to that moment. Close your eyes for a while, take a deep breath, and let every sound outside fade away. Because right after this silence, you'll begin to hear something your soul has been waiting a long time to remember. The story of the first flame, the one that was lit inside you. They say, there are flames that never go out, no matter how the wind changes, no matter how deep the darkness falls. And one of those, eternal flames, is the soul of Aries. From the very first breath of creation, when the universe was still exhaling its first spark of life, a crimson light burst open across the silence. It wasn't just the birth of fire, it was a declaration. I will go first, I will lead the way. Aries was born of flame, and that fire within you was never meant to destroy, but to awaken. It is not the fire of war, but the fire of dawn, the moment when everything begins again. Every beam of light that flows from you carries the message of new beginnings, of faith, of courage. In the eyes of the universe, you are not just a pioneer, you are the awakening of bravery itself. But even the holiest fire must be held in awareness. Without that, it burns too fiercely, until you become ashes of your own making. Perhaps that's why, in the very moment your soul was lit, 3 other lights were sent down. Not to restrain you, but to walk beside you, to remind you that true strength doesn't come from how brightly you burn, but from how wisely you choose to keep that flame alive. Between the breath of the wind and the hum of the stars, 3 archangels arrive, the guardians of fire, beings who speak the language of strength, of clarity, and of love. They wore no armor, they carried no swords. They came in silence like the first breeze after a long night. And they stood around your flame, not to shield it, but to help it burn in the right direction. Michael, the warrior of courage. Jophiel, the bearer of beauty and light. Chamuel, the spirit of love and healing. They are never far. They live in every moment you lift your head through the storm, in every heartbeat that aches for something greater than yourself. They are there in every fall and every rising, in your eyes each time you choose to believe that something, someone, is still worth loving. The universe placed these 3 torches around you not to make you dependent, but to help you see your own way. Because a true warrior of light is strongest only when they understand every fall is a lesson in how to rise again, brighter than before. So if one day you find yourself weary, when your faith begins to tremble, stop. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and feel that warmth inside your chest. That is the sacred flame the universe placed within you. It has never gone out. And in that gentle glow, you will sense 3 figures standing beside you, not to fight for you, but to remind you. You have always carried the strength of angels within your soul. The fire inside you needs no proof. It only needs your trust. Because when you believe, that flame becomes a small sun in your heart, illuminating every step you take. And one morning, as dawn brushes softly against your eyelids, you will realize your journey was never lonely. Beneath the wide sky, there has always been a light waiting to be called by name, familiar, fierce, and full of grace. That light is moving closer now, and from somewhere deep within the cosmos, a voice is calling you, rise, pioneer. Remember why I placed the sword of light in your hands. And that is where your journey with Archangel Michael, the guardian of Aries' courage, begins. Tonight, when the world outside has gone silent, and only the soft breath of the universe remains, we step deeper into the story of the flame called Aries, a soul born to move forward, to collide, to burn, to rise again. But somewhere along every journey between the clash of swords and the sound of praise, there always comes a quiet question that every warrior must face. What am I really fighting for? And in that exact moment, another kind of light appears. Not dazzling, not loud, but steady, warm, like heat spreading from the center of the heart. That is when Archangel Michael arrives. Not as a commander, but as an elder brother of the soul, one who has walked through 1,000 battles and learned that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to keep walking, even when your heart is trembling. Michael steps close to the Aries soul, places his golden hand upon your shoulder, and speaks not with words, but with energy. You don't have to force yourself to be strong. Real strength lives in your honesty with yourself. He teaches that every battle is not to prove you're right, but to uncover the light of justice and compassion within your own heart. Because if your fire burns only to win, sooner or later it will consume the one who carries the torch. But if that fire burns to guide, to warm, to lead, it becomes a small sun in the eyes of those still lost in the dark. Michael never asks Aries to be perfect. He knows this pioneering soul will stumble, will flare up, will sometimes hurt itself with its own power. And because he understands that, he stays. Each time you stand between anger and love, between determination and pain, he rests his hand gently over your heart where the flame still beats, bright but tender. He whispers, "Don't lose your heart in the thrill of victory. Let your courage be led by kindness." Strength doesn't come from control. It comes from knowing when to stop, to protect what you love. In that energy, Aries learns something sacred. The bravest ones are not those who never fear, they are the ones who face fear and walk through it with light. No one is born to never fall, but some, after each fall, rise again in silence with brighter eyes and a softer heart. Michael will never fight for you. He only lifts his sword of light toward the shadow inside you, so you can see there is nothing to run from. For light is only born when we dare to look deeply into our own darkness. And then, one morning, you wake in the mist of dawn and realize your hands are no longer clenched, no more effort, no more proving. In the calm light of early day, you understand true courage is knowing when to lower the sword and open the heart. Maybe that's why they say Michael is not only the warrior of light, but the keeper of the soul's dawn. He always appears in the in-between between night and day, between fear and hope, between ego and faith. As Aries breathes in that silence, Michael's light softens, melting into golden threads across the air, not disappearing, but weaving a doorway toward another realm where light no longer comes from power, but from the deep beauty of the mind itself. A gentle wind passes through. Something moves soft, graceful, like the wings of an idea about to take flight. And you know, your journey has just touched a new layer of light where Jophiel awaits, ready to show you the beauty of seeing and the art of creating from within. Amid the lingering echoes of Michael's sword of light, a strange stillness begins to unfold. It isn't the kind of silence that feels empty, but a sacred pause, the space where you can finally hear the whisper of your own mind. There, among the scattered fragments of thought, a gentle light begins to rise, not blinding, not loud, but clear, like the first morning glow reflected on calm water. And that is when Archangel Jophiel, the angel of vision, steps softly into the chamber of your soul. They say that when Jophiel appears, words are no longer necessary, for he doesn't teach through speech, but through sight, through rays of light that weave their way through the darkness in your mind. Perhaps that's why he rarely comes when you're strong. He chooses the moments when you are uncertain, when you start to doubt your own light. Aries, the soul of action, the first step, the eternal flame that always moves forward, sometimes forgets that a journey needs more than strength. It also needs clarity. And in those moments of exhaustion, Jophiel arrives like a breath of dawn, helping you see what the storm had blurred. He gently shows you the beauty hidden inside chaos, in the wilted flower, in the tear on your cheek, in the apology that never found its voice. He helps you understand that even pain is a form of art because only a heart that has cracked has room enough for light to enter. Jophiel teaches something simple, yet profound. Not every victory needs noise. Sometimes a quiet nod, a single spark of thought born in stillness, can change your destiny. He breathes light into the darker corners of your mind, reminding you that creativity isn't about inventing something new. It's about seeing the familiar in a new light. Under Jophiel's energy, the fire of battle within you begins to soften, not fade, but transform. It becomes the light of vision, of creation, of faith. The faith that you can still rewrite your story, no matter how many times it has broken before. He reminds you, you don't have to be perfect to create something beautiful, you just have to be true. And in that moment, everything around you seems to slow. Sunlight slips through the cracks of the window. Dust dances softly in the air. And suddenly, you understand the universe never stopped speaking to you. You were simply too loud to hear it. Now, in this golden quiet, ideas return one by one. Forgotten hopes begin to smile again. Jophiel touches your forehead not to bless you, but to remind you that the light was never gone. When you stop searching outside, he whispers, you will see the radiant sky inside yourself. And just like that, confusion turns into clarity. You see that every mistake, every detour, every heartbreak was a brushstroke needed to paint the masterpiece only you were meant to create. In that light, Aries learns to listen not to surrender, but to understand that the most beautiful action isn't always moving forward. Sometimes it's pausing to see, to feel, to love. And when you finally allow yourself to see with new eyes, the world begins to see you differently, too. Jophiel's light dissolves, melting into the air like thousands of golden particles. In the quiet, you find yourself smiling lighter, freer, as if you've just been washed clean of everything heavy you once carried. And then, in that very instant, as your heart opens to the beauty of truth, something tender touches you softer than light, deeper than thought, like an invisible hand resting over your heart. It doesn't come from the mind, but from the depths of your soul. One heartbeat, then another, and you know another angel is drawing near, not with a sword, not with glory, but with the energy of love and healing. A pale rose light begins to fill the air warm as the breath of compassion itself. And so, the story shifts once more gently, effortlessly leading you into another layer of light, where the heart learns the language of love, and where Archangel Chamuel awaits, ready to tell you about the miracle of tenderness and the quiet power of a loving soul. Within the golden light Jophiel left behind, a new kind of stillness begins to spread, soft as breath, gentle as a breeze brushing across a quiet lake. And in that silence, something shifts. The light is no longer gold. It turns pink, tender and warm, like sunset resting on shoulders that have carried too much for too long. That is when Archangel Chamuel arrives. No sound, no radiant wings, only a presence so kind that the air itself feels softer, and your heart remembers how to breathe again. Chamuel is known as the one who sees God, but he does not see with eyes. He sees with the heart through deep understanding of souls that have fought too many battles, loved too deeply, and been wounded too often. Aries, the child of fire, the pioneer, the one who stands tall, is so often seen as strong, decisive, unstoppable. But few know that behind that bright armor lives a heart that once bled for love, that once broke under the weight of being misunderstood, that once went silent because it forgot how to be gentle with itself. Chamuel does not speak of love as an idea. He comes to touch the wounds that have never been named. He doesn't ask why you hurt. He doesn't make you relive what broke you. He simply places his rose gold hand upon your heart where the light once dimmed under the weight of disappointment. And in that moment, you hear what your soul had forgotten for so long. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You only have to be real. He teaches that love is not surrender. It is not removing your armor to be weak. Love is the courage to open even when you know you might be hurt again. It is choosing softness in a world that often forgets how to be kind. It is letting yourself dissolve into light, letting your heart beat freely in its own rhythm. Chamuel reminds you that gentleness does not make you fragile, it makes you human. And so, Aries, who once believed strength was the only way to survive, begins to learn how to sit still, to listen to the rhythm of the heart instead of the noise of the world. In Chamuel's light, old memories drift upward like scenes from a film, times you loved and weren't loved back, times you gave and nothing returned, times you believed you had to be unbreakable, that tears were weakness. But this time, you don't run. You let yourself feel. You let the tears fall not from pain but because your heart has finally been touched where it is most alive. Chamuel teaches that love is not finding someone who makes you perfect, but someone who helps you believe in light again, even when the world goes dark. And if you haven't met that person yet, that's all right. Because sometimes the greatest journey of all is learning to love the person you see in the mirror, the one you've left behind in so many battles. When you begin to look at yourself with kindness instead of judgment, life changes its color. You smile at your old mistakes. You forgive the unfinished stories. You realize that every person who came and went brought a lesson about boundaries, about respect, and about loving without losing yourself. In the stillness, warmth spreads through your chest, not from outside, but from deep within where your heart is healing itself. The Aries flame no longer rages like a storm. It burns quietly now, gentle, steady, warm like a candle in the dark, bright enough to guide, small enough not to burn. And in that moment, you understand. When the heart truly opens, the world stops being frightening. When you love yourself, no one can take your peace away. Chamuel's pink light slowly dissolves, sinking into the deeper layers of your soul. There is no pain now, only gratitude, because through your wounds you learn the language of love. A soft wind moves through, carrying the scent of sunlight and rebirth. And then, like a hidden stream beneath the earth, your feelings begin to shift. Love has softened the heart, but deep within, you sense another force rising, a sacred call from destiny itself, reminding you that love is only part of the journey and that your purpose is still waiting to be awakened. Within that warm breath, you hear footsteps in the distance, steady, familiar, the sound of a soul preparing to cross into something new. A path not just of the heart, but of mission, where the fire within you will be guided toward places higher, deeper, and brighter than ever before. Out there, some battles are loud, fought between people, between ambition and limitation, between praise and criticism. But there's another battle, a quieter one, fiercer and far more personal, the one that lives inside every Aries. It's the war no one else can hear, the struggle between the impulse to break forward and the quiet calling of peace, between the fire of ego and the water of compassion, between the hunger to conquer the world and the fear of being forgotten. In that battle, you may think you're fighting others, but in truth, you're wrestling with the part of your soul that still waits to be healed. There are days when you stand on the edge of anger and exhaustion, between kindness and doubt, between hope and the quiet fear that maybe you'll never be enough. And when night falls, when no one's watching, you realize the real war never happened outside you. It's always been here, deep within, where light and shadow still breathe together in every heartbeat. But you're not alone. 3 lights stand beside you, shining softly in the dark. Michael, the warrior of faith, no longer holds his sword, but stands behind you, reminding you, strength isn't meant to destroy, it's meant to protect. Jophiel, with wings dipped in gold, lights your mind with small beams of clarity, teaching you to see beauty in what's broken. And Chamuel, gentle as a mother's warmth, places a hand over your heart, helping you remember that kindness is the greatest victory of all. When the 3 are near, everything inside you begins to shift. Anger starts to fade, like smoke touched by sunlight. Fear begins to soften, like ice melting under the first warmth of spring. And suddenly, you understand strength isn't about moving faster than others, but knowing when to stop, so you don't lose yourself. Aries was born with the fire of action, the force of beginnings. But fire is both gift and test. It can warm or it can burn. The true battle within you is learning how to keep that flame steady to let it burn, but not blind you with its own light. And when you master that balance, you change. You become calmer, deeper, stronger, but with a strength that rises from within, no longer needing to prove itself. On weary nights, remember this: no soul was ever born to win every battle. Every heart carries its cracks, but light can only enter through those very cracks. Do not be ashamed of your weakness. Do not fear the part of you that wants to rest, because only when you dare to face your darkness will you truly understand what light means. And then, just when you think you're about to fall, something miraculous happens. You rise not to prove, but because your heart still holds enough love to believe. That is when you become a victor, not in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of your own soul. The three angels do not leave. They simply step back, giving you space to walk your own path of light and truth. The war within you is no longer a burden, it becomes a sacred ritual, where strength meets peace, fire meets water, action meets stillness. And then, in the pale light of dawn, when everything feels calm again, you notice inside you is no longer a battlefield, but a garden. The flame still burns, but it's surrounded by the gentle glow of wisdom and the scent of gratitude. In that moment, the universe smiles softly, because only when you conquer yourself can you truly step into the next realm of your journey, where fire no longer means power, but becomes light, guiding the way. And so, quietly like breath dissolving into the wind, the story of Aries flows into another realm, the realm of awakening, where fire no longer burns to fight, but to illuminate the path ahead. Along the long journey of a soul born from sacred fire, there will come a day when you realize this truth: that every storm, every fall, every wound you thought would never heal was never random. They were markers, carefully placed by the universe, guiding you back to your true place on the divine map of creation, a place only you can fill. And there, your fire no longer burns to prove itself, but to illuminate and to warm. When the three angels walk beside you, Michael with strength, Jophiel with light, Chamuel with love, something inside you begins to shift. The chaos slowly rearranges, like stars finding their way back into their constellations. Every pain, every mistake, every ending you once feared reveals itself as a perfect fragment of the great mosaic of awakening. You begin to understand everything had a reason, even the moments that made you cry. Your fire no longer scorches, it shines. The anger that once clouded you becomes the strength to protect what's right. The impulses that once drove you blindly turn into clear intuition, and courage once used only to move forward now becomes a torch, lighting the way for those still searching for themselves in the dark. A deep transformation begins within you, not a loud miracle, but a quiet unfolding, like winter melting softly to make room for the first light of spring. You no longer want to win. You want harmony between action and stillness, between power and gentleness, between the human and the divine. And when that balance settles in, your life begins to move to a new rhythm, the rhythm of divine alignment. That is the moment you realize you no longer need to control everything. The worries, the tension, the restlessness in your chest begin to fade. Because now you understand every event comes in its perfect time. Every person carries a lesson, and every pause is not delay, but preparation. When your soul reaches that place, you stop fearing loss. You stop rushing toward what isn't ready. You simply trust. The universe begins to move through you, like music flowing through a perfectly tuned instrument. Each thought, each action, each breath becomes part of a greater symphony of creation. And there, you are no longer the one searching for guidance, you are the light that guides. You become the one others look to when they forget their worth, when they need a flame to warm them in the cold. And then you understand something you may have never known before, that your fire was never meant only to light the world, but to shine inward, into the deepest chambers of your own soul. It becomes the light of awareness, of peace, of gratitude, of homecoming. In that serenity, you stand in the middle of the universe, no longer a warrior, no longer a victim, no longer a seeker, just a soul shining in its own pure light. A light that makes no noise, seeks no validation, but is strong enough to move hearts that have lost their way. You smile not because everything is perfect, but because you finally understand. Everything has its order, and you have always belonged to it. In that still moment, time seems to stop. The wind moves gently, and the light around you softens like silk. You feel something miraculous, no distance between you and the universe, no line between your inner fire and the light of the cosmos. Everything merges, everything unites, as if your soul has finally found its true note in the endless symphony of life. A hush spreads through the air. No more questions, only presence. And within that sacred quiet, you hear something small, a whisper from another realm. A gentle call, powerful yet serene, speaking of the beginning of a new chapter. A journey no longer about battle or balance, but about meaning, about the purpose your soul chose long before it was born. And so, slowly, softly, the light within you changes color from gold to white, from bright to pure, as if the universe itself is opening another door. And beyond that door, your flame is no longer a part of this world. It has become the light, the guiding force of the mission you were born to fulfill. When all the sounds of the world begin to fade, and only your breath remains moving in rhythm with the breath of the universe, pause here, in this very moment. You don't need to search for anything more. Everything you've ever needed has always been here in your heart, in the light, in the gentle warmth of the three angels who have never left your side. Michael stands behind you, the steady ground of courage. Jophiel shines within your mind, a small guide, lamp glowing through the long, uncertain night. Chamuel rests his hand over your heart, a soft reminder that love has always been the answer. The three lights blend together, surrounding your soul until the world itself seems to stop. No fear, no rush. Only a stillness filled with gratitude, a sacred calm where you can finally feel yourself alive, quietly, honestly, completely. If the universe wanted you to remember just one thing, it would be this: you have never been alone. Every time you've fallen, an unseen hand has lifted you. Every time you've lost your way, a silent light has guided you home. Bow your head in thanks. Not only for the blessings that came, but for the trials that softened you, deepened you, and taught you how to love with gentler eyes. Then take a long, steady breath. Feel the flame in your heart burning quietly, not fierce, not weary, just bright enough to light the road ahead. And when you step forward, walk in peace, because the light you carry is not yours alone. It is a gift the universe gave you to offer this world. A flame that knows how to love, how to understand, and how to be grateful. Lift your head, smile softly. One chapter has closed, and the dawn is beginning inside you.